We are now pulling into the very end of summer. School is coming back into session and programs for the fall are starting up again. And we're in a nice transition time both in our lives but also in the liturgical season. You may have noticed that in the past several weeks we've had some very high-carb Sundays where the readings all talk about bread. We've had the manna from heaven in the Old Testament and lots of teachings from Jesus about being the bread of life. So we have sort of a carb-filled liturgical time here, and we're going to continue that this week. We'll have, in the first lesson, we will have that miraculous feeding of Elijah as he is on the run for his life from Jezebel, and that idea of God providing him sustenance in the wilderness. And then in the gospel, we will have another one of these passages where Jesus talks about being the bread of life come down from heaven. Both of these readings, again, talking about God providing for us, and that's something that we always are hungry to hear from, if you'll allow the pun. Our music, of course, will continue to reflect that. We have lots of great hymns and anthems that use those images of bread and nourishment as a way to think about God's providing for us in our life. At the communion, the choir will be singing an anthem that is a setting of a poem by the Benedictine nun, Dolores Dufner. She wrote this poem about 35 years ago or so, and I first encountered this poem about 15 years ago and was instantly attracted to it. It has a lot of very dark images, and yet it's a very hopeful text that talks about being nourished with the bread of life. The first two verses begin this way. O wheat whose crushing was for bread, O bread whose breaking was for life, O life, your seeming end is seed, a seed for wheat, our bread and life. And the second verse then goes on to the second element of communion. O fruit whose crushing was for wine, O wine whose flowing is for blood, O blood, your pouring out is life, our life in you, O fruitful vine. Again, these chain of images that kind of interlink one to another and give us very complex ways to think about the Eucharistic mystery. As I said, I was very attracted to this, and I knew instantly that I wanted to set this for our cathedral choir, which I then did. And this is a setting that we have sung several times during the summer when we have these readings about bread. I wanted to picture the haunting quality of those images with a melody that would have some of that same feel and yet ultimately feel very comforting. So it goes very quickly through those three verses. You'll hear that melody very prominent in each of the verses. And I invite you to pay special attention to these beautiful words by Dolores Dufner. At the end of the service, we will have yet again another one of our summer hymn suggestions. Again, those have been a delight to see your suggestions and the hymns that are most resonating with you as a congregation. And so we'll be singing How Firm a Foundation at the end, which is a great way to kind of keep us rooted in that providence of God. Also, as a word of warning, this Sunday we will have a fire drill. This is not a normal thing for us to do. In fact, this is the first time in at least 10 years that St. John's has done this. And yet it's an important activity for us as we continue to think about how we can always keep our community safe. This fire drill is actually more for the practice of the safety team and the ushers and the staff. But of course, we need you to cooperate, and we need congregation folks to help us work out the kinks of the procedure in case there were an emergency to happen. So I don't have all of the details. We will know some more on Sunday morning about how that's going to be, but please know that there will be a fire drill, and yet we are being very intentional about not disturbing the liturgy, that we want to respect our time together in worship and fellowship and in communion. So that will be of primary importance. And yet we will still figure out a way that we can do this other very important practice activity just so that we can be prepared in the event of any eventuality. So it's been a big time for us. As I said, we're kind of winding up the summer. We had our choir camp. We had 31 children come to our choir camp this year for a wonderful time of singing and learning and really wonderful games. And everything is now starting to kick back up. We hope that you will come and be with us richly and fully in all of the activities here at St. John's Cathedral.